Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Awaken Sunday Live Q&A right here on the Awaken the World YouTube channel. Today, Sunday, February 10th, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we're going to have a talk about understanding consciousness from a spiritual perspective. So, happy Sunday afternoon to all of you. Hopefully, you've had a chance to consider participating in the 28 Days to a New Consciousness. You can start that anytime, and you can work your way through it. I see that Kim is here. Hello, Kim. So nice to see you today, this afternoon. Sunday. Yeah, it's great. Sun is shining. It's cold, really cold. You know, it's funny, I said to Kelly earlier, we often use the phrase colder than hell. And I said, well, except for in a volcano, I mean, that's pretty much anywhere, right? And we certainly feel that way today, although we're far from the coldest place. But, the one beautiful thing about the cold, the air is so fresh, so clean, and we are both constantly amazed at all these little birds that come to eat from our feeders and our suet hangers. And we have a couple of woodpeckers now, big woodpeckers, and they have such beautiful feathers and such a little tiny creature. And it withstands that and lives out there. And for us, we have to bundle up. My fingertips are still chilly. So this is going to be a pretty interesting discussion. And parts of it are not going to be easy, that's for sure. We're going to be trying to take you beyond the mind, of course, within the mind, and that's always the problem. One of the things I love about Kelly is that we have the most amazing conversations together. We don't talk about football and about, what we would call mundane sort of things. We talk about consciousness. We talk about the way we tend to behave and all the different aspects of existence. And we were speaking together today on how there's a boundary layer, and that boundary layer is like the edge of the mind. And that edge of the mind it does move, of course. It crawls forward in most cases because the edge of our mind is always based on everything that's already happened. Right? We don't actually have the capacity to think something new. What happens, and Einstein probably said it best, people thought Einstein spent a lot of time thinking. He didn't. What he used to do is go for walks and rely on his dreams and contemplate. He looked for stillness because he knew that the concepts that came to him needed to come from beyond the mind that saw the problem. Whether that problem is in our perception as a puzzle or a puzzle on a chalkboard in higher math. In this same way, we are going to try to push that boundary layer back just a little further today and see if we can give it a good shove towards expansion. So when we're talking about spiritual consciousness, we're talking about understanding, first and foremost, we need to understand ego function and what happens with the ego in the natural world, in the world of nature. And we're going to play back on this a little bit later. In the Bhagavad Gita, one of the oldest texts we have to talk about understanding consciousness from that spiritual perspective, we are told about the gunas. And these gunas are portrayed as all deities are in Hinduism, as deities, as aspects of the divine, which is true. To think that the idea of Hindu worship is to worship the idol is a mistake that comes out of ignorance. There is an underlying understanding that it is a representation of all the qualities that particular aspect of creation, of that divine presence, is and represents. So we're going to talk about the gunas, and the gunas can be thought of as the three aspects of nature. And these three aspects of nature are what creates our egoic sense of self. And thousands of years ago, the seers of old, they chose their words as best as possible to deliver the information as concisely as it could be. So don't get too hung up in labels. Gunas, rather than individual deities, should be thought of as vibrational chunks or chunks of vibrational waves of frequency spread over a wide spectrum of vibrational frequencies, similar to light or sound, but having infinite direction. And of course, at its densest level, at one end of the spectrum, we have what's known as tamas. And tamas has been termed as dark lethargy. And the reason they use that term is not that it's dark, but it represents the heaviest vibration. The vibration of spirit manifesting matter itself, manifesting physical form, which is the coarsest, the heaviest of forms. Totally root chakra sort of stuff, okay? All about survival as me, as an individual. All about our relationship being grounded and with the earth. At the other end of that spectrum, and this spectrum goes off into infinity in this case, is sattva, or calm goodness. Those are the words that we interpret sattva to be. But sattva can't really be interpreted into English. So we use things like essence or consciousness itself, that which is closest in the natural world to our highest vibration of our true self. And spanning the gap in the middle in the visible range of frequencies, let's say, if we were going to compare it to the light range of frequencies, you have rajas. And this is the raw energy, or you would call it passion, of course, colored by whatever experience you've gathered up to date. So we can think of anything that is tamasic or heavy, like, for example, a rock is tamasic, right? It's grounded, it's part of the earth. We would think of rajasic as a tornado, and we know people who are whirlwinds, who leave a trail of destruction wherever they go, and they're usually unaware of it. And then there is the idea of what is sattvic in our existence. Well, the deep insight that comes through in-depth meditation. Many thanks to Jayaram V from India for providing some information for this today, okay? These three gunas, or three sets of frequencies, three vibrational states, form everything in existence. Every single thing that we see manifest in this form can be broken down into a combination of these three vibrational states. Some of them leaning more into one than the other, of course, and some of them almost purely one or the other. All of our actions, all of our, all that which arises out of thought has very limited free will involved because of this. You know, when you come to realize that your thoughts are not your own, and that is very easy to do, all you really have to do is pay attention to what's going on there for a minute and realize that you are not intentionally bringing those thoughts into existence. You certainly can do that, but you don't pay attention long enough for it to last. And yet there is this steady stream happening. And as I explained to Kelly today, you can think of yourself as a radio, like this little device here is a rather modern day radio, but it's a Bluetooth speaker with a radio. Now, if this radio is keeping itself in a higher vibrational state through the thoughts it feels it does have a measure of control over, i.e., starting out the day with gratitude, recognizing self in others, seeing the same consciousness that is within me is operating within another. What we're doing is we're tuning our radio station, our energetic body field, and we have various types of radios, right? This one's a Bluetooth speaker and radio as well. We have various types of radios, and each one of those radios, due to its design, due to its core programming through its experience, okay, and in the case of the radio, it's just its core programming, the hardware of it. Each radio has a different sound. Each radio puts out sound in a different way. The vibrational state that your energetic body field is in attracts that stream of thought out of egoic human consciousness, which does not belong to one. It belongs to all of us. And I've talked about this before. If you traveled astrally out of the body and went to the moon and sat down at the edge of one of the craters and looked back upon the earth, you would see that from a psychic view, the entire earth is clouded in the only thing I can describe it as, representative as, is a gray misty cloud that is ego. It's the collective thought and experience of the whole right up until this point. And most of what you get out of your day is a direct download from that, depending on your vibrational state. And then you, as the receiver, receive that transmission and then rebroadcast it out through your speakers. And depending on the firmware, depending on the programming, the past experience, you will find that this speaker always sounds different. It becomes flavored. And those thoughts we take on as our thoughts, because the flavor that's been added through our experience has made it seem almost recognizable as ours. And then we buy into that. And in that way, most of what we do from that state of thought is highly unconscious and rarely connected to free will, if at all. It is more programming. The state of being you're in pulls out those thought processes out of the egoic cloud of humanity. You flavor and color those processes. You buy into them in recognition, believing they're your own. And then you perceive reality by your opinions and perceptions of your thoughts. Where is consciousness in there? Well, to understand that, we got to go a little deeper yet as well. We have to understand what's known as Prakriti, or nature, the field. And the gunas are operating in and creating nature all at the same time. These three vibrational chunks of frequency in all their many manifest forms. Prakriti literally means the natural condition or state of anything, or the most original or primordial state of anything. Pra means in the beginning and at commencement, and Kriti means creation, work, or composition. Thus, Prakriti literally means original and natural. It denotes the state of conditions at the beginning of creation, or the natural state of existence as it was at the beginning of creation. The opposite of Prakriti is Vikriti, meaning anything that has been modified, altered from its natural Prakritic state. Sorry, Kim has a comment here. Kim says, I'm studying the brain right now. Add that into the equation. My mind is... yeah, no kidding, eh? Yeah, and there's more and more research being done at quantum neurology levels now, which is a really interesting field, Kim, and worth looking into. Some of the realizations that are coming out of quantum neurology now are just amazing. So, Prakriti signifies the original and the eternal, while Vikriti represents its reflections or modifications. Thus, in Hinduism, only those that existed at the beginning of creation are natural. The rest are the modifications of whatever existed. From this perspective, the natural world is a manifestation of nature, but only a manifestation of nature. The world emerges from Prakriti, from nature, as a modification or a transformation. And here's the interesting word. And keep in mind that we're going back like over 7,000 years here, and or projection, as in a holographic universe or a holographic 3D matrix. The natural world is not Prakriti, but only a manifestation of nature. The world emerges as a modification. A tree, for example, is not a natural or original object in the true sense because it did not begin, it wasn't there at the beginning of creation. What did exist, however, was the idea or the design of the tree latent within nature. You never get to see it. The tree that you perceive through your senses manifests as the effect of a cause. And that cause was the seed. The seed is also not original or natural by this definition, since it arises as a modification of pollen and egg. The pollen and egg are also not original or natural. They are modifications of the cells from which they originate. What does this mean about the world in which we see ourselves living in? It means that Prakriti, nature, the field, is not that which we see as physical. Everything we see as physical has been brought about by modifications to this field. A projection, if you will. A fully physical, fully functional, fully real feeling, holographic projection. When we talk about consciousness, we need to separate out where that boundary line is when we begin to move beyond the projection and beyond what's known as Maya. And we're going to explore Maya a little bit next. And again, many thanks to Jay Aram V for this. Very knowledgeable, a friend of mine, and more than willing to provide information, studying Hinduism and experiencing Hinduism as well. So the meaning of Maya, neither the tree nor the seeds nor the pollen nor the eggs represent the natural state of Prakriti. They are modifications or projections or manifestations of the originating thought or idea of God, of creation. We talk about this in the physical world, how that everything you actually see manifest is what? It's a remnant. It is I'm going to relate this to Christianity so that you can have a little better concept, okay? The seed of your idea, the original idea, brought in contact with that creative consciousness of the whole, is like the Father and the Holy Ghost. And they work with the Son, and the Son is the offspring. The Son is the manifestation. But that manifestation is a modification of the idea And this is the same of everything that exists today. Everything in creation is a modification of something else. The same applies to a human being, where you have a modification of the egg and semen, which in turns are modifications of the energies present in the parent bodies. The world is full of these modifications, and together these modifications create the illusion of existence, just as the light does. Since the world is full of modifications and all the objects in it are produced by modifications and in themselves are subjects to modifications, the world is known as unreal or asat, or an illusion, Maya. Hinduism says that world in which we exist is neither eternal nor original nor natural. It is a projection, modification, or manifestation of Prakriti, of true nature, that which was there at the beginning of all creation. A manifestation within the mind of God, an idea come to life in a 3D holographic presentation. How much magic is there in that? So we take this illusion and then we distort it for even more so by our perceptions, which is known as Vikriti. What we consider as the natural world is not natural nor original in the true sense, but only a manifestation. Creation can be compared to the light that radiates from the sun. You may say it is the sun, and you can also say it is not the sun. The light is a perception, an illusion, because it is created and exists only in your mind as a perception. It is not natural or original in the sense that it appears and disappears intermittently. The light of the sun, therefore, is an illusion, a transformation or a modification that is being projected by the sun. And we call those streams of photons. The same applies to inanimate objects as well. The rivers and mountains do not exist originally. They came into existence from nature as modifications to that field. A mountain is a modification of the earth. A rock is a modification of minerals and clay. None of them fit into the definition of natural because they are derivatives created through these three processes: modification, projection, and manifestation. Therefore, according to Hinduism, the world is natural only in a very limited sense, just the same as light is not the same as the sun. In order to move past the boundary line, we have to understand why the world is an illusion, and this can be hard to grip at that mental level, but we're going to give it our best try. An illusion means something that appears as one, but in reality is something else. So sometimes we have an illusion that the horizon is shifting, when indeed it's just waves of heat causing our apparent effect of a liquid rolling horizon. It is what your mind misinterprets or misunderstands. According to Hinduism, the objects you find in the world are all illusions because they are not what they seem to be. They are modifications of eternal realities that are hidden and never perceptible to the ordinary mind. Kim says, cellular level, many cells created, but one cell is not able to create on its own. Yeah, exactly, right? And it does begin to make sense then when you begin to get into it a little deeper. In order to see past this, you have to be willing to move past mind, and that is incredibly difficult to do while we're still in the mind. What's happening is we are watching a play and taking the actors in it for real. The people cannot see the real person because the actor behind, because the real person behind the actor, because the action is so good. We're so entranced by what we think is going on, right? Sat, which is known as reality, and that's what we talk about when we say sat, is permanent and always hidden behind the diversity. It is not easily discernible. To see that, you must remove the layer of ignorance from which your intelligence is covered. Since plants, animals, humans, and all other objects are not what they appear to be, they are but modifications of the eternal. That reality becomes hidden. The diversity they become is known as the illusion. It is an illusion not because they do not exist in the physical sense, but because it is not what it appears to be. Therefore, the expression, the world is filled with Maya, means it is filled with objects that are not really what they appear to be, and that includes you and I. This is the true meaning of Maya. Not that the world is unreal like an hallucination. You know, as I've said many times, if you want to know how real it is, go step out in front of a bus. You're going to find out. What makes it Maya is that indeed things are simply not what they appear to be in our limited states of perception. Dreams are thoughts and desires in disguise. They are also part of the modifications of mind, part of the illusion. And in this sense only, is the world Maya, or illusion. You know, there's a lot of spiritual teachers out there that will have you disengage from the world and throw the world away, and that's never what it's about. What it's about is learning what lies beyond the myriad forms, what lies beyond the sense of busyness and of manyness. And then to be able to act within this busyness, within this elusive existence, from that higher state of consciousness and that higher state of knowing. So we understand Prakriti, we understand that nature is the idea of everything in creation that sea of consciousness had at the moment of creation. Everything that has come out of that is a modification of that within the mind and body of God itself. Finding the silence within the silence. I like that, Kim. That's really good. I really like that one. We understand what Maya is. We understand that the world is illusion in the sense that things are not what they appear to be. That does not invalidate your journey or existence here. Free will? Not really. As long as you're inside your own head. Far more than 95 to 99% of everything you think you're doing freely is done in some level through past programming. Buddhists understood this quite deeply, and the Buddhist expression of free will is to not give in to any desire. To not give in to any desire of mind. And in this way, bypass all the programming possibility and reach for something deeper. Awakening consciousness, of course, we have to define the difference so we understand. You know, thought consciousness isn't really your own, and it isn't really consciousness. We talked about that. It's more a function of modifications of nature. It's a function of those three gunas, those three vibrational states. And whatever those mix of those three you find yourself in, and of course they can mix in infinite variety, and infinite form, coupled on top of that by your perceptions, which are based upon those three gunas as well, and all the experiences you've had, you tune yourself like a transmitter to receive thought. And that thought comes from the sum of all human thought. You know, we know this to be to be the case already. We have seen it in rats. We've even seen it in people. For example, the Wright brothers and their German counterparts, both brothers, a team of brothers, both came up with the same ideas for flight. And it is actually arguable that the German team got off the ground and flew first, a couple of weeks ahead of the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers actually flew further. But the point is the realizations did not belong specifically to them. The realizations were in the egoic thought cloud of humanity already present, ready to be pulled out when the time was right. Ready to be pulled out when someone or a group of someones tunes themselves, either as individuals or as a group together, into that right vibrational state to receive that out of that cloud. There's a beautiful gift in that. It means that, exactly, so thought to higher, you got it. If your vibrational frequency is high, if you're thinking more rarefied thoughts that are leaning towards the truth of our existence, you're creating a vibrational state which will, over time, attract those higher vibrational thoughts and realizations that they will come in naturally. And you will call them your own, and they become your own. They truly do. But they only become your own in the way that you have access to them. We're never to get hung up on them that we own those thoughts. And when you take that truly to heart, then you can begin to truly awaken. Because now you can sit on the bank and you can watch the thoughts that you have attracted into your awareness flow by. And allow that realization of what you're seeing flow by to mold how you choose to change your vibrational frequency. You can look at those thoughts and you have to accept what you pull into your being. You have to learn to be okay with it. You know, right before lunch, and again, I love the fact that Kelly and I have all these great discussions, but we were talking about what happens when you push up against something, okay? When we push up against something in life, what happens? We're pushing up against it so close that we actually can't even see it anymore. And in the act of pushing up against it, what we're doing is we're feeding it our energy. We're feeding it new life, and all we want it to do is die. But we can't see it. We've pushed ourselves up so tight against it, resisting it, that we can no longer see it, and all we're doing it with our hands laying on it, trying to push it over out of our way, is we're feeding it our energy. And it's growing, and it stays. Exactly, it repeats. And it repeats because we keep feeding the damn thing. Because we keep pushing up. Acceptance allows you to take a step back and move to the side and say, I invited you to my door one way or the other. Come in. That acceptance allows you to see, if you choose to. What it does is it gives you a space. It creates a space between your normal repetitive reactions to those related thoughts, to those related ways of perceiving, to those related modes of thinking. And it gives a momentary space, a gap, where you can choose to not jump into the stream and follow that thought, where you can stay on the shore and say, you know, what if I don't pay attention to that one this time? I'll just accept it and see what else comes by. The more you watch this, the more you will see that your acceptance in itself begins to affect and change the thought stream. It refocuses your transmitter. It immediately tunes you to a higher vibrational state, and you cannot help but start to think more rarefied thoughts. More thoughts are being pulled out of that egoic cloud of humanity that are reeking of the vibrational state that you wish to have in your existence. The consciousness that we talk about in the mundane world, in the sleeping world, in the world of the 3D hologram, is not really consciousness at all. It is a more repetitive, near artificial intelligence. And it appears to be intelligent. But the programming is so in depth and so large and so complicated that just as our world gives the illusion of separate beings within the mind of that creator, we are given the illusion of this big, complicated issue that we would call our existence. Awakening consciousness is allowing yourself to see beyond the limitations that your normal levels of consciousness would put on you. It begins to open you to functioning within the illusion, but not getting caught up in the elusive forms. I truly hope that this video today has been helpful. I really do. I've tried my best to delineate my experiences. And oh, by the way, I forgot to do this at the beginning of the video. Believe it or not, this is our 500th video. I was a little blown away, actually. I noticed the one total on the YouTube channel, and I checked the second YouTube channel, and it was like 325. And then I went and counted all the other videos on the Awaken the World group page and on the Awaken the World page. And this today is our 500th video. Man, can I talk a lot. You guys have got to be sick of seeing my face by now. So I want to say, have a wonderful, happy, joyous Sunday afternoon. We love serving you. It has been such a gift this past 500 videos. And never mind all the posts, all the personal communications via video chat, and all the text communications that we have participated in. It's been a fantastic year, and we look forward to seeing that grow and continuing to serve you in whatever way we can. Much love. Namaste to you all, and have a wonderful Sunday.